It is the Security Weekly News. I like to put the accent on different parts every time. Welcome to the week of 2 March 2025. Yeah, we got Tastovision, Trufflepig, Cisco Windows VSCode, OT, SQL, Android, Josh Marpet, and more on the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Imagine a world where every threat, ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, is stopped before it can even begin. ThreatLocker makes that world a reality with a zero-trust approach to cybersecurity. By giving you granular control on every executable that can happen in your environment, ThreatLocker protects your business around the clock. No more guessing, no more gaps, just rock-solid protection that keeps your operations running smoothly and your data secure. Discover how ThreatLocker's least privilege approach can safeguard your organization against known and unknown threats. Take the first step toward total peace of mind. Visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker today. All right, from the island of Elba, I'm Doug White, and it is the Security Weekly News. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment, or you will have to become a professional YouTuber focused on picking fights in biker bars while dressed as an anime character. I used to know somebody who did stuff like that. You could probably get a pretty good YouTube channel out of it. I mean, they watch people eat, right? It's just like, here's a guy who's going to eat a giant pizza, and he's got 4 million followers. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. All right, training data. You have to love it. You know you want it. You scrape the net, you dump it all in the giant repository and hope the AI learns something from it, because there's never any misinformation on the interweb, right? Lou was doing this stuff with neural nets back in the 90s where somebody had a petabyte of data and they were like, could you just turn a neural net loose and see if you find out anything weird? He was like, sounds good to me. Does this come with gin? But it was cool. I mean, his neural net was finding all kinds of weird stuff. Well, Common Crawl, if you don't know what it is, it's a nonprofit, and they have this massive open source repository of petabytes of data that they've scraped from the web since 2008, and anybody can use it. Really, it's cool. I mean, I've used it because if you don't know me, I love to make fake data sets just to amuse myself. Like, I'm going to make a fake data set and I'm going to do statistics on it and find out strange tendencies in fake data because it's interesting, you know, and I'm wondering, like, how many of my fake data sets are in there? I mean, I think I made one once that had like 100,000 patients that had random medical conditions from a like list of all known medical conditions. You know, it had fake blood pressures, fake temperature, all this stuff. And I mean, it could be out there. I was just doing stats on it for fun and found that there was an unusually high number of people with guinea worms. Don't Google guinea worms, or get a big bowl of pasta and Google guinea worms. You be you. Anyway, Common Crawl is often used for AI training since it's free, it's huge, and you know, you turn your AI loose on it, go learn something there, you young pup. So Truffle Security, they make a tool called Trufflehog, if you've never heard of that, is an open source sensitive data scanner that people use to look for things like hard-coded passwords, keys, you know, hashes, you name it. And so Trufflepig was used on this Common Crawl data set and found 11,908 valid secrets, not secrets, valid secrets, meaning they tested them and they worked. And they were just stuff that was hard-coded in things in the data set. So guess what? Your AI just learned something that daddy sometimes drinks. No, I mean, I know that it learned that bad coding is good coding. And Augustus de Morgan just popped up in a puff of smoke. So the moral here is do better coding. But if you're using LLMs to write your code, I just saw an article today about you don't need to be a programmer anymore to develop apps. And I'm like, well, you don't. You can just say, hey, develop this app for me. I'll be out back with a glass of gin. But if you're using LLM for coding, it might have picked up daddy's drinking habits. It might have learned to drive from Uncle Edward, who was a cabbie in Detroit back before the war, and his drinking habits. it might have learned to hard code, secrets into your code. So you may want to check that out very carefully before you turn that code loose on the world and find out that the AI thought, well, you always put a hard-coded password in everything because that's the way the data set looked, and lots of people have guinea worms. But hey, you be you. CISA warned U.S. federal agencies to secure systems against attacks exploiting Cisco and Windows. So two pretty common things that a lot of you may have. But basically, when CISA warns, it usually means things are being exploited in the wild. They didn't provide any details of said wild exploits because they never do. Now, it just means they saw it somewhere. They're not going to tell you where. But one flaw on a variety of RV series VPN routers from Cisco allows someone with admin credentials. So that sounds a little more restrictive. But it said that you can get the admin credentials with another flaw that's an auth bypass flaw. So you can then use that. And the first thing to get root on the VPN routers. Yeah, that's not good. Cisco said there was a proof of concept code out for this. So it's been around a while, but apparently people haven't patched it. The other flaw was a Win32K elevation of privilege flaw that somebody locally logged in, high schools everywhere, locally logged in could use to run arbitrary code in kernel mode, because that's never bad, right? Basically you own the place if you can do that. You can change everything. The security advisory on this one is for Windows, listen to this, Windows 7 and later. So that pretty much covers the spectrum. It's also for Server 2008 and later. And the original issue of this was from December of 2018. So what's happened is something that's laying around has now got a proof of concept out there, and now people are actually exploiting it, and people have not patched some of this stuff. So these were added to the known exploited vulnerabilities, or KEV catalog, and that means that federal civilian executive branch agencies are required to secure this in 3 weeks, unless it's from Russia, in which case I think they're okay with it or something. But you're required to secure it today, 3 weeks, but everybody else should also secure it. All right. Now, I think everybody likes VSCode. I like VSCode. It's a free tool. I don't often say this about a lot of Microsoft products, but it's a free tool that you can use to, edit software. And it's good for all kinds of different purposes. Usually I use PyCharm because I really do like PyCharm a lot. Free plug. You guys could give me a free license or something for saying that. But VSCode is another good one. And I recommend VSCode to students all the time because it is free. And that's something they like. Now, a theme extension that has nearly 4 million installs on VS Code was deactivated and removed from the VS Code marketplace. That doesn't mean it's not in your system. It just means they deactivated it so you can't download it. Now, VS Code said it contained multiple red flags and suspicious code, according to the VS Code team. They removed the extension, and it was called Material Theme -free, and they pulled it out last week due to, quote, heavily obfuscated code and unreasonable dependencies, which included a utility for executing child processes. Okay, that sounds scary, but at the same time, not. It could be something okay. But Extension Total first reported this in a blog post and started warning about it. Now, the publisher of the material theme is Equinoscoio. And they've been banned from the VS Code marketplace at this point. And they have and when they banned them, they had a total of 13 million or so things removed because they had other extensions as well. Now, Equinoscoio, boy, that's a tough one. Equinoscoio said that the suspicions were unfounded and represented unfair treatment of them. Now, Equinoscoio is Mattia Astorino. A lot easier to say. And Mattia Astorino is the founder of Equinoscoio and said that the problem was an outdated sanity.io dependency within the extension's obfuscated code that made it look problematic. So, but right or wrong, you need to start coming up with ways to evaluate these things, because if you've got developers or employees who are installing things and they're installing things on top of things and installing things on top of the things that installed the things, and then those things are installing other things and Augustus de Morgan and all that good stuff, it's really, really problematic. What does Equinoscoio mean in Italian? Like horse buddy, my little horse friend, little Sebastian. I don't know. Interesting. All right. Anyway, OG to the OT to the IT to the OMG. Yeah, our old buddy OT, or operational technology, is always a problem. I mean, ever since we fired old Gil and his trusty monkey wrench and replaced him with a cybernetic rat with chainsaw arms, well, those tunnels have been a little more complicated. Now, OT's that part of your organization that always says, we're too weird to die and too weird to be hacked. I mean, who knows Ada anymore anyway, right? I mean, do you think some 12-year-old in Clinton, New Jersey could figure this out and turn all the chainsaw rats loose in Hunterdon County? Come on. But, the answer to all those questions is yes, I do think that. Well, so this article was about the 2025 ICS OT cybersecurity budget report, which sounds like one of the most exciting documents you've read since that logarithmic regression report that came out last year. But this report found out that attack volumes and sophistication of attacks are rising dramatically against OT. I mean, I don't think that surprises any of us. I mean, nation states are targeting this stuff, and as it gets connected and as you put IoT devices into it and valve controllers that are Bluetooth enabled and on and on and on, the attack volumes get bigger and the sophistication keeps rising. But what they found was that the OT security budgets are basically not keeping up. I mean, a lot of OT stuff was always that you get it built, you turn it on, and the chainsaw lumberjack robots just do their jobs and don't complain. And we go back down there once a year to make sure that like nobody fell in or anything like that. And the rest of the time it just runs. I mean, it's kind of scary, but the OT stuff is what's controlling what they call critical infrastructure. And it's called that for a reason. I mean, I've seen some stuff that would really like curl your hair, as they say, where there's like, you're like looking at this and go, what is that box out in the middle of that field with a big red button on it that says no access, no trespassing, and the guy goes, well, it's a button. If you pushed it, it'd cause a lot of bad stuff to happen. The whole thing would explode and probably we'd all die. Maybe everybody in the whole planet, because I don't know what goes through them pipes. And well, how do you secure that? It just has a sign that says do not push and no trespassing. If anybody's out there in the field, old Bert would sick of dogs on him. And you're going, okay, this is terrifying. So you should be thinking about this. Like, what in your OT components of your enterprise are at risk? And how is that budget getting sorted out? And maybe use this report to replace that intern with a pointed stick with some real security on your systems, like, okay, Stan, you stand here in the tunnel. If anybody comes down the tunnel, you poke them with a stick. Got it? Excellent. You're not going to be paid for this, by the way. Yeah. Well, your Microsoft SQL server, or SQL server, as they say, Microsoft SQL Server 2019 that you've been meaning to upgrade did sort of fall out of mainstream support last week, along with SQL Server Big Data Clusters, which sounds like a candy bar. Doesn't it? Like SQL Server, Big Data Clusters, now with even more almonds. I mean, it does kind of sound like something like that. Now with nougat. Like, I didn't know what nougat was, but you can buy it in gas stations in France in big chunks. You just go in there and they got like a bucket of nougat. My friend was like, you have to get this. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, nougat. And I'm like, what? He was like gnawing on it in the car. It got all sticky. It was gross. But anyway, much like OT, database platforms tend to be long-lived. We get them set up. And when people start talking about migrating them to new platforms, it's really one of those pretty terrifying and harrowing kind of things to do. Probably worse than when you went into the steam tunnel to check out that bad cabling and found out that rats really do get that big. I mean, I thought it was a raccoon, and then I thought maybe it was an abandoned child that had gone feral or something. No, it was a rat. And the guard that was with me, I was like, what is that? And he's like, that'd be a rat. I'm like, can you shoot that? And he's like, no, we're not allowed to do that. Like, oh, great. But anyway, you can get extended support for SQL Server 2019 until the 8th of January, 2030. But here's the thing, that you have to pay for it. And it's only going to be security fixes that they decide are important. There will be no more software updates, no more bug fixes or anything like that. So, I get it. Upgrading that database platform is challenging and scary and terrifying, but it is pretty long in the tooth about now. And, you might want to put it on your radar coming up. I mean, of course, here's the bad news. The current platform is 2022. That one's got support ending in 2028. And the new one, which is 2025, is still in previews. And it also is scaring everybody because it's got a marketing bit with it, which basically says, now bringing AI to your customer data. I'm like, whoa, no, I don't want to bring AI to my customer data. Can I disable that feature? No. You must use our AI. Yeah, I don't want that. Maybe someday I want it, but I don't really want it right now. Drop table AI semicolon. Yeah. I mean, anyway, the AI added, has been added to 2025. Has got people worried. And so maybe 2025 is not ready for prime time yet, but I don't know. Maybe 2022. Maybe you wait till 2030 and hope that 2019 doesn't have a software bug or something. I mean, I don't know. But hey, that's why you get paid the big bucks and I get paid in used office furniture and old pointed sticks. Yeah. The ransomware attack back in February on Lee Enterprises took out about 75 newspapers who are all owned by the same company, which is kind of worrisome, right? I mean, this one group owns everything, and they keep telling me that, no, you won't get measles. I don't know. I'm sorry, Lee Enterprises. I don't know anything about you. But the company stated that the attacker encrypted files and exfiltrated information of their systems in a ransomware attack. Okay. So this attack is now being claimed by something called Qiling. But wait for it. So Qiling ransomware group has claimed credit on their Tor leak site, and they indicated that Lee Enterprises refused to pay a ransom and that negotiations have stalled. Imagine that. Qiling claimed to have 350 gigabytes of file from the Lee Enterprises system, and it included investor records, financial arrangements that, quote, raise questions, payments to journalists and publishers, funding for tailored news stories, and approaches to obtaining insider information. I'm like, wow, that's not what I expected from small town newspapers, but okay, interesting. Now, Qiling, here's the weird part. Qiling is a Russian linked ransomware, according to this article. And it's a ransomware as a service. So obviously you could rent it out. And they said it had been around since 2022 and had been used to target a wide range of operations, including one of their most famous ones, which was the London hospital attack. Qiling on their site has a list of about 300 victims on their link site. Now, Qiling sounds a lot more like Chinese to me than Russian, because Qiling, if you don't know what that means, Qiling, it's a good luck creature in China, in Mandarin. And it's kind of like a manticora or something, except it's not like a manticora, which is like a lion and a rooster and I don't know what, but a Qiling is it's like a Volpatinga. It's like a dragon combined with a deer with like ox feet or something. I was trying to look up a picture one. I couldn't find one, but yeah, it's like a Volpatinga, or they call it something else in the US. I don't remember what they're called. I'll think of it as some arbitrary random moment, and I'll say it out loud probably when the traffic police are evaluating me. Anyway, I don't know. It could mean cheese factory or something in Russian. I have no idea, but my Russian's pretty bad. Amnesty International said they had new evidence of a compromise using Celebrite that can defeat the lock screen of a fully patched Android device. Okay. Now, Celebrite's a common tool that's used for mobile device forensics by lots of people in corporate law enforcement and so on. It's a totally legitimate tool. It's a very nice tool. No shade on Celebrite. I have an old one in the other room over there. But in this case, there were exploits that were being used in the Celebrite against a Serbian student who had been criticizing Serbian officials. Now, the attack chain exploited a series of vulnerabilities in device drivers in the Linux kernel that is used for USB on the Android. One of the vulnerabilities in the chain was patched early in February, but the other two are still in Android, even though they've been patched in Linux, because even when Linux patches something, that has to kind of flow downstream. Now, Amnesty International found this last year when they were investigating a similar incident. So I guess if you're going to criticize the government, any government, you might want to ensure you have a secure platform. And if you're using Android, you might not. So I don't know. I mean, hey, Apple's going to, I guess, cave in and let the British government have access or something like that. Well, his latest play involves nudity, custard, 25 toads, and a banjo. It's not for everyone, but that's why it's called Off-Broadway. Please welcome Off-Broadway specialist Josh Marpet. Hi, Josh.
if I'm off Broadway, they're really short on talent in the Broadway stage. Let's be clear here, okay?
Hey, listen, you get away with anything down there.
And speaking of talent, that's actually what my article is about today. So I really, really, really wanted to talk about this. This is actually fascinating to me right now. There's an article, and I put it up there in the show notes, about how we're 3.2 million, I think it's 3.2 or 3.4 million, from an ISC squared report about there's so many jobs that we need to get people for. There's a talent shortage. And I have an answer for that. And this is me personally. I have an answer for that. And my answer is bullshit. Okay, try again. We do not have a talent shortage. I'm going to tell you right now. I think the ISC squared study is a pile of crap. And I'm happy. I would love to get the people from ISC squared who did that study and bring them on a show, whether Security Weekly News or Paul's Security Weekly, and debate them, because I think they're out of their friggin' minds. Here's the problem. There have been so many RIFs, reduction in forces. There have been so many layoffs. There have been so many things going on. And I'm not just talking about the Maganauts and everybody else in the government. I'm talking about, like, how many did Adobe and Apple and Intel and VMware and Broadcom lay off in the last year and 2 years and 3 years and 4 years? It's been crazy, okay? And so the whole concept of this article is, hey, if it's so many job shortage, if there's such a talent shortage, how come it's so hard to get a job? And that part of that article, I agree with. We're 100% on the same page, because between HR using AI filters that have no idea what they're talking about, okay, between HR using just drop them all filters. As a matter of fact, there's a story not long ago. I just remembered this, like right now. There's a guy, a head of security, that applied for a job in his department with his resume as the current head of security and got auto rejected. He fired the entire HR, went to the CEO, said this is bullshit, and had the entire HR department fired so that they could stop this crap from going on. Okay. And it's just absolutely insane that this kind of thing happens. It's literally ridiculous. So I got to tell you that the whole concept of this article is correct. Now, there's also, by the way, I want to be clear, there's other HR trickery that is not just HR departments setting up stupid AI filters that don't work. There's also ghost jobs. Oh yeah, we're looking to fill that. We're backfilling that job. I promise. We've got it posted. How come everybody that applies, I've sent 20 people to apply to that job, and none of them can even get an interview? Because that's been tested too, by the way. Okay. I talked to CISOs. Me personally, I've talked to several CISOs over the past few months and about the last year. I was on the phone with one yesterday. Wonderful guy. He's been the CISO of companies that you all know, and I'm not going to name him or companies. That's rude. But he can't find work. It's bad right now out there. Like, it's horrible. I am going to point you to Ben Rothke. Ben Rothke is a gentleman who I greatly admire. Brilliant, brilliant guy. And he said, you know what, I'm going to actually look at this. So if you look at Ben Rothke, look up his X account or his Substack, and it's either Substack or Medium, I forget, but also on LinkedIn. And Ben actually did a study. He went through LinkedIn. He said, look, I'm going to use one source. LinkedIn is a pretty good source of jobs. People post a lot of jobs there, okay? And they tend to be more legitimate jobs. He said, how many jobs are actually out there in the InfoSec world right now? He came up with a number of about 15,000. Now, this is about a year ago, by the way, just to be clear. He found about 15,000 jobs. That's the entire InfoSec world has about 15,000 open jobs open at any given time. He said it varies, 14, 17, whatever, but in that neighborhood. And I went, okay, that's a lot of jobs, but it's not nearly as many as the 3.4 million that people are claiming. And we talked about this and came to the conclusion that they're saying, that the people saying this 3.2, 3.4 million open jobs, or the talent shortage, they're thinking that every mom and pop shop needs at least one InfoSec person on staff to take care of that. How many mom and pop shops do you know that have an InfoSec person on staff? How many 50-person companies who legitimately should have one on staff? No, they have an MSP at best, and that's if they have an MSP, who thinks they're an MSSP, who thinks they have a guy who or gal who passed the Sec Plus and then goes, well, I'm an InfoSec expert. Hey, look, God bless you. That's great. You passed the Sec Plus. That doesn't make you an expert. That makes you a beginner, and I'm proud of you, and keep going, and that's wonderful. but go get more experience and go get some more stuff under your belt, okay? And then you've got that one person who's handling 17 different companies, and they're supposed to handle everything, because it ain't going to happen, man, okay? So my rant, and yes, I'm ranting because this annoys the crap out of me. And I think I've talked about this like 4 or 5 times across Paul's Security Weekly, Enterprise Security Weekly, Business Security Weekly, and now Security Weekly News, is that we do not have a talent shortage. We have a job shortage because people are laying off in anticipation of AI taking over some of these jobs. We have a workflow shortage, or a career path shortage, because nobody hires entry level and then promotes from within to develop their people. Okay, which is where we used to go. You used to get in at the help desk and answer the phones. And I'm old because I did this, not this. Yes, I know. And you get in at the help desk, you answer phones, you solve problems, and you learn how computers and people work. And then you work up into network admin or system admin or infosec, or you grow your career. How many of you have grown your career in the company you're at right now? I'm honestly curious, especially in the day that entry level now means 5 to 7 years of experience. When entry level is 5 to 7 years of experience, something's just wrong. Okay? When I hear about CISO jobs going for $105,000 to $150,000 a year, and I'm like, wait, what? You mean a CISO of a mom and pop shop, or the CISO of a 50, 100, 150 person company? No, CISO of a name brand publicly traded company for 150. If it's publicly traded, $200,000 a year. And I'm like, wait, what? That's ridiculous. So if you're a hedge fund or somebody that actually pays reasonably well, go poach some of these publicly traded CISOs, because they're getting paid squat comparatively. Okay. And just go grab them. We're like, hey, do you want to make an extra $100,000 a year? Yes. Cool. Come on over. You can get them. Almost guaranteed. It's ridiculous. So do we have a talent shortage? No. Do we have a career path shortage? Yes. Do we have a jobs shortage? To a certain extent, yes. Because everybody wants a gunslinger who can just slot in and get to work and just rage through stuff. Nobody wants to say, hey, you know what? You're fantastic. We love your work ethic. We love your ability and the way you think. We'll teach you how to do this particular job, and you'll grow up with the company, and we will absolutely enjoy you and teach you and train you. And when you go out, we'll celebrate the fact that we gave you these skills, and you'll be an ambassador of our company and how awesome we are to everybody else, ensuring that we have a continuous flow of good people that we can grow and then send out. And we will have the drug dealer model effectively, or the ambassador model. You'll champion us as you go out into the world. Wow, what a great idea. And nobody cares anymore. So it's aggravating to me personally, because I grew up in the world where you hired kids just out of school, hired kids just out of a training program. You trained them how to do the job. You celebrated with them that they were doing a great job. You fired the ones that couldn't hack it. That's fine. Okay, I'm not saying don't fire anybody, but you celebrate them and you train them and you make them learn, and they are amazing. And then when they go get their next job, they say, what a great manager this person was. I would work for them anytime, any place, anywhere. And then it comes time you go, hey, you know what? I want a new job. And they've made their way up in that company. You're like, hey, can I work for you now? This was our world for the longest time. Okay. Now, Doug wore lingerie to do that. I didn't, but it's just the way it is. But like, it's a relationship and a rapport, and we all know each other, and it works out really well. That whole system is pretty broken right now. And so what can we do about it? Well, I don't know. I think these HR filters and AI coming in, where people don't know what AI is going to do, but they're laying thousands of people off because they're like, AI is magic, and I'm going to break the WARN Act, where they have to do severance and layoffs and things like that, by preemptively laying off. It's not going to be good for very long. And so we're going to lose an entire generation of people who are going to go turn into plumbers and bakers and farmers and homesteaders and whatever, because they're like, screw this. I don't want to live this life fraught with uncertainty, being laid off 3 times a year. This is not easy. And anyway, I don't like it. I think the article is pretty much spot on, and I don't have a solution, and I wish I did. But it angers me when ISC Squared says there's a talent shortage. Oh, hell no. Try again. Back to you, Doug.
I really like the image of me quitting my job and becoming a homesteader. Like, that's it, honey. No more professoring for me. We're going to get 40 acres and a mule and then make our way. And I would be like, have you ever seen the movie Unforgiven?
Oh, yeah.
Which is a truly excellent, I don't like Westerns usually, but that's a truly excellent film. And you know, Clint Eastwood is this like sort of retired bad guy, and you know he's trying to raise these pigs, and I'm like, that would be me. Yeah, I would just be like, I need to be doing C coding, but instead I'm wrestling dying pigs. Yeah, I wouldn't last as a homesteader. We need to turn that over to Lee and Tyler and all those Idahoians or whatever you call those people from Idaho that, you know, are all like, yes, I can defend my property, and with razor wire and machine gun. Yeah, I mean, they can too. Don't mess with them. But
don't mess with them. Yeah.
Well, I pretty much agree with you. There's one comment I would add to that whole story, though. It does go both ways. I mean, we've seen companies that spend a lot of money trying to develop employees. And they front load that, and there's a lot of front loading going on. And like my students get hired and they go get a job, and the company's going to send them to this boot camp and that training and this SANS school and whatever. And then the minute the students get all their certs, they're like, oh, I can get more money across the street. So you can't just say we want people to stay with a company. You're going to have to figure out a way to make it something they want to stay with. And not just, but I mean, I agree with you 100%. I've seen this before where I've gotten calls and people said, can you come help out? We need a network admin because I just fired them all because they complained about their pay after I bought a $10 million yacht with company money. That actually happened. And, you know, and told them to work. He told them something like, you need to work smarter, not harder for less money because we're in a bind. And then he spent $10 million on a yacht for the company to race. And yeah, then two of them quit and one of them got fired because he had attitude. And the guy's like, why can't I hire? I'm like, you know, it's hard to imagine why people would not want to work for you. You're so charming. But I mean, it is bad.
Amazing.
But it is bad if you drop, you know, $50,000, $75,000 on a new employee. And then, you know, 6 months later, they're like, yep, yoinks, thanks, see ya. But yeah. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen this I mean, they talk about these shortages all the time, but I haven't seen that because I think my phone would be ringing if there was that kind of shortage. And, you know, I'd be like, call me. I mean, you got 3.2 million empty jobs. Well, surely there's one for me. But, you know, yeah. Thank you, Josh. Okay. I do not like this. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I mean, I had like some kind of anxiety reaction from this. It was really bad. So listen to this. New tech allowed volunteers to taste flavors from different sites. What? I was like, wait, what? And the example said, quote, imagine you are video chatting with a friend who's eating lunch and you want your friend to dip a sensor into the lunch and give you a taste of the lunch. I'm like, oh my God, if you thought getting rickrolled with a lemon party picture was bad, wait till you click on that taste link and your mouth is flooded with, I don't know, a sensor placed in the bottom of a dumpster behind the sushi shop in August. They said the device helped people taste coffee, lemonade, fried eggs, cake, and fish soup. All things that I could just taste here at home. But I mean, it basically has these packets of like chemicals that blend together to supposedly produce the taste in your mouth because it's all just chemicals, right? But I guess I don't get it. I mean, why? My friend's having a bowl of pho in Ho Chi Minh City and I just can't stand it. Give me a taste of that, buddy. Like, flood my mouth with that really fishy goodness or whatever. I mean, what could go wrong? I mean, the pranks we will have with this. Like, never click a link from Paul Asadorian. I mean, remember when Paul told you that the flagpole tastes like cinnamon at minus 15C? No, me neither. But wait till you have, you can have gross out taste challenges on YouTube where everybody's watching and people put stuff in the sensor and then, you know, you get the reaction of the panel. Like, okay, here it comes. You don't know what this is, but here we go. Yeah, or guess the mystery flavor. Or maybe like a lick the homeless TikTok challenge. Like, what does the 7 train floor taste like after the Mets lose? Does it taste like bitter tears or does it taste like ground hobo on a bun? I mean, how about the bathroom floor at CBGB's on Sunday morning? I know it's not there anymore, but you could probably save these flavors, right? So somebody could go around the world sampling like flavors and just save them in a file. Yeah, I so all this and more in new Tastovision. Like, don't just watch your favorite show. Be sure and taste it right along with the stars. Like, yeah, we're doomed, I tell you. Well, that's the news. That was really the news. That may be the last of the news, but thanks, Josh. And I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.